be 3D eventually, because that's how we see the world.
Hello, I welcome you back to this episode of 3D media theory. In this episode, we're going to talk about something very special. We're going to go above 3D. We're going to touch new media and new developments. And we're going to talk about holograms. And I have split this in two. So in the first part, I will give you an introduction of what is commonly maybe understood as a hologram you see in the movies, a projection hologram. And in the second part of this class, I will then show you some real holograms, and we will also have a very special introduction about how to make holograms, and you can actually see what this happens. But there's a lot of confusion about what holograms are, so I'm going to start to show you first what they are not. And this is also a very interesting class, and I made some examples for you to understand and to show. So let me give you a little introduction, and then we will jump together in the first part of projection holograms. Projection holograms have been around us for a long time, and they are often used in advertising, in different types of setups for politician and trade shows. So I would like to go with you a little bit into detail and have a look what we talk about when we talk about the projection holograms. What are actually projection holograms? What is the history of it? And I also would like to show you some examples of the projection holograms. And in the end, I will show also some aesthetic aspects, what you have to keep in mind when you want to make your own contents for projection holograms. So this part is going to be on projection holograms mainly. And let's start. We will see what actually the hologram in itself is. So there are different naming for what this is. Some people call this the projection hologram. Others also say this is a floating hologram. You can have different types of information here. There is also sometimes the word a hologram projection or interactive hologram. What we're talking about is mainly something that is being shown in the movies like Star Wars, for example, where you have a little the little Princess Leia who is talking in a hologram recording, and people can move around it. So this is a little bit the idea of what a hologram looks like. And you also see that this here in the picture is a little bit bluish, so there are some artifacts. It is three-dimensional, but also not fully correct in the colors, and we will see this how this is actually happening, and how this theory of hologram is jumping into 2D movies and creating all sorts of effects that we have seen in film history as well. So let's jump a little bit into history and see where the idea actually happened. And this is here an example of the hologram in Star Wars. So I just show this to you again. This is the projection hologram people are thinking of when they are thinking. So this is of course a film effect, a trick, But the first time this effect was actually mentioned in history was by Gambetta della Porta in 1535. He lived until 1615. And here's the first one who actually mentions this as a part of magic, how to show illusions to people. And he is writing in his book from 1658 in the Magica Naturalis. So these are the effects of natures, how you can create such an effect of creating a ghost by the help of a mirror. And this is actually here a part of theater history. You will also see that this was very often used and was also very popular. And in theater history, this old principle was revived by a person called Pepper, and in 1829, he lived around the 19th century. He was presenting these effects, and you will also see that this effect is often called Pepper's ghost. So it's a kind of projection that allows you to visualize some things that are actually not there and create the illusion of a ghost or a hologram. And one of the first plays where this was actually mentioned is The Haunted Man, and this was in 1863. So you see here behind is a little explanation of what this effect looked like. So you had a guy here, a musketeer or fighter, fighting with his floret against a ghost, and the ghost was actually standing under the stage and reflected over half mirror, and you can see the audience was actually seeing this imaginary flight. So we would see a little bit how this is working in detail, but this is a trick effect where you superimpose two type of images, and the second one appears only because there is a lot of light, like the projector you see below. If you turn off this light, there is actually nothing to reflect. It is black. So then this is how you can turn on and turn off this ghost effect. And you have a little bit different illustration here of this Pepper's ghost effect. Again, you see the illumination of the light. Here you see a double mirror. So first time it is reflecting here and then reflecting one more time in order to create this Pepper's ghost effect. And the way this works is actually that you have this half mirror here in the middle, and you have a straight view to the object in the back, and then you have the ghost here on the left. The ghost is hidden, but as soon as the light is turned on, this ghost on the left side is reflecting on the mirror as well, and it looks like they are both superimposed. In an analog world, I try to simplify this a little bit like this. So these are two cases. You see here in the middle is the mirror, and you have one view which is straight and the other one which has exactly the same length. So if they are supposed to be superimposed, they have to have the same length in the angle of 45 degrees. And depending on where you turn on the light or where you turn off the light, this is what you see or what you don't see. So in the first case, the light is on where the green arrow is pointing, so this is what you see. In the second image, you turn off the light in the background and you have the second image. So this is how you can switch, and this kind of analog effect principle is also used in matte boxes or in film effects if you want to superimpose some things. So this is the very simple analog effect, how to make a part visible using the light. And this is also possible to make with two mirrors, for example, if you have three different things. So you have to imagine that the way needs to be the same, but you can repeat this principle in different times. So this is a construction here where you have three different stages. One, the one that is straight in the back is illuminated and the two others are off. You then have, exactly like we had in the previous example, the one on the left that is on. And if you imagine as the mirror as turning, flipping the space around the mirror, you see actually that the way is actually the same length in the part number 3. So you have actually 3 stages you can illuminate and play with in this kind of analog effect principle. So this is the setup with 3 mirrors, and we can see that this also works in digital. So in digital you don't have the real object, but you project more or less, you project a video on a mirror, and then you can have this appear as well. So these are holograms in quotation marks because they are reflections or projection holograms. It is an overlapping of different effects. So what we have here in a digital hologram effect shows more possibilities. Of course, you can easier change the content, it can be interactive, and you can even create some video effects, making this more like the hologram type you saw, for example, in Star Wars, if you want to create some artifacts around this. So let's focus a little bit more on what is here with digital holograms. You see this as an example here also in a lot of fake movies. So I took this here, a little example from the internet, a fake hologram, and I would just show you this example right now here.
To settings, we're going to go to general and then go over here to restrictions and turn this hologram setting on, and we're ready to go. I'm going to show you some of the good ones that I like. For example, we have photos. Open this up. We're going to grab a photo here, 2 or 3, and we're going to open this up and make this bigger. Grab a black and white filter, and there we go. Edit it, you can pull it down in the trash, and the other 2, just put them back up and scroll.
So this is a kind of effect that is created as an animation. Of course, this involves motion tracking and everything to simulate. So this is a film effect simulating the effect of what this hologram projection would look like. And we see this also on stages. So on stage you can have, for example, virtual musicians that interact together with musicians, with real musicians in the background. And the way this is set up here in the digital setup with 2 mirrors actually is that you have a projector here on the top. You have a mirror which is actually flipping the space here, and then another mirror here on the bottom and reflecting the image on the very big mirror here on front of the musicians. So the problem is that you always need the same size, and this way you with the mirrors you can actually try to bend the space, to flip the space, because otherwise the projector would have to stand here in the middle of the audience, and this is a way with two mirrors to put the projector on top of the stage if it is not possible to put it below. So this is a sort of a trick effect how to do this, and this is used in rock concert and was used here in this case to bring back Jimi Hendrix on stage. And a company that is very famous for this kind of technical setup is Muse, and they have a little demonstration video I'm showing to you right now,
which works like this. Front and rear screens in eyeliner setups are known as primary or bounce screens. Eyeliner takes these basic principles and adds to it a special 3-layered polymetric foil, just 25 thousandths of an inch thick. The foil is tensioned across all or part of a stage at a 45-degree angle, like so. This allows the projector and primary bounce screen to move into a vertical formation, like so. For smaller spaces, the projectors can be configured with mirrors to elongate the projection path and maintain picture integrity. Eyeliner displays ideally require a minimum footprint of 10 feet square and a height of 9 feet to show full-size human figures. What you are seeing is the reflected image, which is so true and realistic to the original, it has become known as a virtual image. Many people perceive what they are seeing now as a 3D hologram. In fact, it is a 21st century take on a mid-19th century visual effect known as Pepper's Ghost, showing now on the relay screens. Thanks in part to the amazing optical properties of the eyeliner foil, combined with the light and picture output of Christie Digital high-definition projectors, the image has depth and opacity that actually supersedes the scale and definition of traditional 3D holograms.
So you saw how this setup is working, how the illusion of a virtual character is created here, and of course the hologram doesn't need to have any bluish character or something like this. It can also be a real image, but there are some things to remember when they want to make this effect. So I will just summarize this for you here, and we will see what is actually the most important principle. First of all is the control of the light is important. Only the bright images reflect and become visible. If the image is black, it disappears. So if your background is black, there will just be nothing because it doesn't reflect. So the transparency and overlapping in the projection is enhancing the effect. So if you have things standing in front of each other and they are a little bit transparent, this creates this ghostly-like feeling. And the occlusion in 3D, like things that are overlapping, are always the strongest depths. So they also enhance the illusion of space. And of course you can simulate some interactivity, like make things appear, so this generates some sort of intelligence that is in this effect. So this is what you saw in the video where the people are working with the planes or the images, and this is what you can do here. So this is a small overview about the effect and the history. Now let's have a look at how we actually create the content, and this will be the next part. So some things we already saw is the effect of light, and the black is important. So if you want to create projection hologram content, this is the floating content, the overlapping content, or the multiple layers content, and also multiple angles content. So you will see there are different types of devices, different types of applications. And I will show you an example of all of these, so you get some idea what this kind of fake hologram or volumetric projection can be. The floating content is what we just saw before. That is what is used in concerts and trade show, which can be interactive with the actors and looks a little bit like a telepresence or a video conference. So the interactivity is actually the interesting part, because if you just see a projected person, then you actually cannot tell the difference if this is a real or not a real one. But if you have some digital effects, fades, or things that are overlapping, which are not possible in real time, you create the spectacle and go above the real effect. And this is what you very often have in the shows, for example here in Musion, but this was also in a lot of K-pop 3D holograms, like you make the people appear or disappear, falling apart in different blocks, and this can be actually quite interesting. And here is another 1 minute example of how this works. So you see also here are sort of virtual stars, and there is a mix of projection and reality. I just let you see this here. So you see that this is another example, and it shows different showcases. So this was the projection hologram that we have. What is important is to have the content overlapping. So this makes it generally interesting. And you see, for example, here you have a real object mixed with a projected content on top of it. So you have the feeling that this is actually coming out of this fake iPhone here. So the overlapping content is a way to suggest the projection of holograms. And this is here a little device, a small stage just for an object like a point of sales. And this uses this effect, so it doesn't have to be always in life size. It can also be on small devices. And you can do this also with multiple layers. So instead of having one layer projected, you can have this in 2 or 3 layers, which actually creates a sensation of 3-dimensional depth as well. So these mirrors allow you then to make here on a very small device a sort of 3-dimensional depth of the objects that are a little bit overlapping or behind or in front of each other. This creates display which has real 3-dimensional depth, and also in this case it's worth to mention that it is avoiding the Vergence accommodation conflict that you have usually in stereoscopy, especially when you look on the small devices. So here the farther elements are also projected on a far plane. So this is an interesting thing with this multiple layers content. And this is a proof of principle here made with an iPod and our iPhone.
I3DG, which was exhibited
see
as
this
a
here
recommended work
as
at the
in a
40th Japan
demonstration,
Festival, is a device which enables 3D
as
content to be viewed on
an
the iPhone
example
network
how
of touch.
to create a holographic display.
To display pictures in 3D, 3 images are combined using 3 hard mirrors.
Now there's all different types of multiple angle content, so you can also reflect a projection on 4 different mirrors. This creates a little bit the feeling like this inverted pyramid here. You actually change the perspective by turning around, and this was usually very popular in different effects in the point of sales. So if this is illuminated correctly, this is also very interesting and fascinating holographic type. Of course, just reflection, and this is used, as you saw before, on the telephone for creating some interesting effects. And we see that these Pepper's Ghost or hologram projections are used in different types of applications. We see them very often in fun parks, in science centers, but you also saw that the demonstrations are working for concert or for trade shows, and if some famous people cannot be transported, they're actually often used also in annual meetings or product presentations. So these holograms have different types of applications, and for making the content, and this is what I want to show you now, is actually some very important requirements that are necessary, and we're going to watch this now together, what we need to make the content. For hologram creation, for the content creation of these projection holograms, not the real holograms, we require some special filming techniques. We need, at some point, we need a perfect black background in order to get this Pepper's Ghost effect, because everything that is not black will be reflected. We then have to have a sort of color temperature adjustment between the projector monitor and the environment light, otherwise the colors will not look natural and you will have the idea that the person projected is not really standing in this place. And we want to mix some realistic and unrealistic effect in order to create the magic. If it is only realistic, it will look like we say in ultra realistic content, but we miss the magic, we miss the supernatural and powerful feeling. And if we really want to give life to the image, we saw that simulating interaction can also be quite interesting. So let's have a look at how we can do this and what is the problem of having a really perfect black background. So we actually have this black background here, which is not totally black because we have some folders here. We have problems in the hand when we're moving fast. This is creating a motion blur. And then we also have some contrast problems, like for example here these pens are dark blue. And we also need to have this black on the floor. So if we need to key out someone, we cannot have them standing on the gray floor. It needs really to be black everywhere. So to film a real black background is sometimes problematic. And this is why people usually use a different technique. They use a blue screen. The blue is actually interesting because it does not really appear in your human body. And in this case, I filmed myself. I was standing on a small element that I could cut off and key off in order to have a perfect black. So the idea is to replace the blue to have a good contrast and to reduce artifacts by uniform lighting in order to have a real proper keying. And for the proper keying. In this case here we need two things. One is we want to cut off on the level of the feet, so we don't want to see here where I'm standing, and we then want to be able to replace the full blue background with a complete black to create this image on the bottom. And there are sometimes some unwanted keying artifact when the light is not totally equal, when there are some differences here where the light is close to the green, to the blue, or here when the matte is not really clear. So this is called feathering on the side. Looks a little bit strange, and this can be due to the camera, to the lighting circumcision, but these are some unwanted effects you have to watch up when you are doing this. And we also have some wanted artifacts. So this is the idea if we want to actually create the idea of a hologram like in Star Wars. We see on the top left side the original actually looks like I am now, but we then have the possibility to add some glow around, to add some distortions, and I use this filter here, the bad television, to create some analog distortions, and the overdrive to add the glow in order to create a sort of Star Wars like fake hologram effect. So these are the wanted artifacts we want to have for creating our fantasy hologram. And the interactivity I also added, so I filmed myself here now in a half mirror, so you will see the projection of the blue Alaric in the front, and in the background I'm making here some movement, and this is what I'm going to show you here. So I'm simulating that I'm creating this here at the moment. So here you see at the end also the bad television effect, and the fake simulation that was played with the hologram here, the projecting hologram in the half-transparent mirror. And the camera was on the side filming at the same time the monitor, which was reflected, and my face behind at the same distance. So let's make a quick summary of what we saw today in the world of projection holograms, and close this very special lesson for today. The topic of today's lesson was the projection hologram, and we saw that this is already a very old principle, starting from magic in the 16th century, but it is reviving every time with digital projection techniques again, and people are discovering it. It is fascinating because it is a sort of transcending the reality and creating the feeling of a ghost. And this is why this effect is also often called Pepper's ghost. We can do this using one or multiple mirrors. I showed you the different setups. If you want to create one or multiple overlapping and floating overlapping holograms, we saw also that the content creation needs to be important and free of artifacts. We have some artifacts we want to have in order to create the aesthetics and the looks of the hologram, like in Star Wars, for example. but there are some other artifacts we don't want to have, so they need to be high resolution in order to have clean borders and not too much motion blur. The perfect black is actually important in order to create a very big distinction between the foreground and the background. Everything that is not black will reflect somewhere and also create some strange and artifacts in the image. And you have to conceive the projection device. So imagine what this is going to be looked at what distance, before we actually create the content. And the result of this is actually what we imagine to be a hologram. It is not a hologram, but this is a sort of dream of what we would imagine a virtual projection of some three-dimensional screen or volumetric display would be. So this was the summary of what we call projection holograms, and we will close for this today. You will see in the next part we will look at real holograms, and this is a totally different technique, and please don't confuse both the projection hologram and the real holograms. This was going to be a highlight of this class. I thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy the next program as well.